much for joining for our 8:30 p.m. episode with the Morning News podcast. As you see, we are at Social Burger. If you're in the DC area, they are closed. The kitchen closed at 8 p.m., but definitely come by and check them out throughout the weekend if you're here for BlurCon or any of the events. Or if you are in the DC area, expecting to be at the Asian Film Festival. It is virtual this year, so if you missed out on that, definitely go to Asian Film Festival.org. That is apafilm.org. Get your tickets. And it's good for you to watch everything between now and the 25th of July. Now, we're so very excited about tonight's guest that we're having tonight. If you are familiar with his work, you're going to be very excited in learning more about him. But before we introduce him, for those that are new to watching the podcast, let me introduce, we're going to introduce ourselves. My name is Dana. I am a cosplay event and con staff photographer. You've probably seen my photography with Dragon Con, Anime Week in Atlanta, MomoCon, and even with DC Comics. I'm also a voice actor, event planner, and a whole lot more. And of course, I have to introduce this lovely lady to my left. You're right on the screen. The founder of the Moana Nui podcast, the dynamo, the Renaissance woman of our time, that not only does 20 million things, but she still have room for other stuff. And we don't think we actually think she may be a vampire.
She might be a robot.
She may be a robot. We don't know.
A droid.
A droid, exactly. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the beautiful and the lovely, my co-host, the lovely Moana.
Thank you, Dana. Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. My name's Moana, as Dana mentioned, founder of the podcast, also children's book author for The Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea children's book series, editor and publisher for the Wildcard Chronicles and Burning Spear Comics, and champion and lover of our indigenous and independent communities. We are so excited to have you guys here with us tonight here on the Moana Nui podcast. And so, without further ado, let us welcome our guest, and I will let Dana do the introduction.
All right, I'm very excited. Lee Shorten is a Pan-Asian actor, writer, and director. An adoptee, Lee grew up in rural Australia. A former musician, Lee graduated law school in 2009 and practiced law for several years before moving to Canada in 2014 to pursue a career in the arts. Lee is best known for playing in The Man in the High Castle, and if you're familiar with, also the Terror INFAMY. Lee was nominated for a Jessie Award for Best Supporting Actor for his work in the Pacific Theater production Kim's Convenience. Lee director debut. Please tell me I'm not going to put it in Moana.
Jadubi.
Jadubi. Okay. He was the writer and director. Won Best Ultra Short in the Vancouver Asian Film Festival in 2018, and his follow-up short film, PARABOLA, he was the writer and director, received an A+ review in the Georgia Strait, and was one of the Crazy 8's top 6 films in 2019. Most recently, Lee was nominated for Best Director at the Blood and Guts 48-Hour Film Festival in 2019 for his horror satire, The CHADDENING. He was the writer and director for. Lee is committed to telling inclusive and representative stories. And now we're very excited to bring our special guest up to the front, Lee Shorten.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's a bit hot, but it's good.
All right, we're going to, there we go. That way everybody see your lovely face. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. And we just, right before Lee joined us, we found out he is gracing us in the United States. Right now, he's in California. So he's not dealing with a huge time difference that we were concerned about if he was actually in Australia. So, of course, for every episode that we have, we always kick off. It helps everybody get to know you a little bit better. Let's start off with your with the Pico or your origin story. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So we covered it a bit in the bio, which is always so embarrassing to kind of sit here off stream and hear your own bio. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I grew up in Australia, and then I was a lawyer for a bit. But so basically, what happened for me was, I wasn't one of those kids who always wanted to be an actor or anything at all. Actually, I wanted to be a doctor. Weirdly, it's so stereotypical, but hey. And then I graduated school. And I actually went to law school because I figured it'd be easier than med school. Then I was a lawyer for a while, but then I was just very unhappy because it's incredibly, incredibly boring, as you can imagine. And then I was like, well, what makes me happy? And I remembered, for my undergrad, I'd done film studies, and I just love everything about film. And I thought that's the thing that makes me happy. So I should probably go and try that. So I quit my job and moved to Canada just on a whim, kind of roll of the dice. But luckily for me, it panned out, or it is panning out, and here we are.
Nice. Thank you so much for giving us that little snippet.
So in your bio, it was mentioned about your adoption in Australia. What was it like growing up and creating your identity as a Pan-Asian in Australia?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I grew up in a small town that was super, super white, and my parents are white, and they're kind of like they're pretty conservative white people too, and I didn't really even know any like Asian people for a long time. I think for some reason adopting Koreans was popular around that time, so there's a group of us that all were like these adopted Koreans, but like because we're all adopted, being raised by white people, we're not really, in touch with our culture or heritage or whatever. So, and it wasn't really until like my 20s where I started meeting Asian people and like reconnecting with what it actually meant to kind of be Asian. So it was kind of tough in a way. Like it's this weird thing because you're in a white town being raised by white people, you don't really necessarily think of yourself as that Asian, but then because you're living in a white small town with this bunch of racist people, they won't let you forget that you're Asian, but you don't really know what that means. And it was a strange time. It was okay.
Okay. Now, of course, also we read, saying in the bio about you transitioning from law to acting. What inspired you to make that transition from law to acting, and how was the path of your transition into acting, especially being from another country?
Yeah. So I kind of always thought I'd be a director, actually, rather than acting, because that's kind of what I liked more back then. But when I was thinking about changing careers, my lawyer brain, and I tell this story, and it's so stupid now that I actually know things about the industry, but I was like, well, if there's one movie, for every movie, there's like 50 actors and only one director. So therefore, it has to be easier to be an actor, right? It has to be easier to get in just by numbers, which, of course, is stupid, but that's what I thought at the time. So I thought, well, I'll try this acting thing, see if I can get the foot in the door, and then we'll work out what's happening after that. But yeah, and then I just wanted to move to Canada because, again, I was like, well, LA's bigger and there's more opportunity, but there's probably a lot more competition. So if I go to Canada, it's smaller, but the competition's smaller, so maybe it'll work out. But I knew no one there. I literally just moved there not knowing anyone or knowing anything. I'd never been to Canada before. And I just got really lucky, I went to a school there for a little bit, but again, a lot of luck. I signed with an agent within like the first 3 months. Was auditioning right away, and then was very fortunate enough to book a small role in the first 6 months. And yeah, just a lot of luck, really, because that could have gone all so wrong.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I wouldn't call it luck. I think it was just your path that you needed to go, and it just you were directed on the path you needed to go, whether you knew it or not. So I wouldn't call it luck because you had it in you, and it was like, this is where you need to go, Lee. Sometimes we don't hear it, but sometimes we either get directed on the path, or sometimes we get drop kicked on that path.
Right.
So true.
Drop kicked. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you said that you always thought you would be a director. Were there any particular directors in the industry that you were particularly attracted to or impressed by their work?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on like Spielberg and Ridley Scott and David Fincher and Tarantino, all the white guy classics. Scorsese. And I laugh, but like they are good directors, and I think there is, aside from being straight white men, they're also very good at what they do, and it's probably a reason why they're successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of my favorite directors too.
Right? Like we all just say them, we're like, yeah, okay.
Well, great minds there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and being someone who's Asian in the entertainment industry, do you see any differences in supporting diversity in acting, like amongst the countries where you work, like between Australia and Canada and the US?
Yeah, like another reason why I kind of tried to start the acting career in Canada as opposed to back home in Australia is I think I had never seen an Asian person on television in Australia ever. And I know, like, there's obviously still, like, not that many people of color in Canada and
right.
America comparatively, but, like, in Australia, there's, like, zero. It's, like, fucking blizzard. So, and then Canada, US, I think they're pretty much, like, the same market in a weird way. Like, it's hard to distinguish the two. And they're both, well, they're both where they are at. So, which is not great, but better than it used to be.
I find it interesting that there's, like, no Asians in Australia. Is it because, like, what's the Asian population look like in Australia? Like, is it reflective of that, or is it just that they're not providing opportunities to the Asian community?
I mean, I think it's like I'm not sure of the exact population, but it's like kind of like America in that your big cities are always going to be diverse. They're always going to be super diverse, and then your rural areas and your country areas are going to be pretty white. But it's just in Australia, I think there's only the two big cities, so Australia just feels a lot wider than it probably is.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And then, like, just for you personally, what has the differences been between, living in different places, in the normal people that you come into contact with and how they receive you? Is there differences that you've noticed, or you're pretty much like, it's all good,
it's kind of like, I think, in some ways, like stereotypes are stereotypes for a little bit of a reason. Like, not all stereotypes and whatever, but I generally find, Canadians, like everywhere I've been, everyone's been super nice. People are just generally nice, which is good. Mm-hmm. But I would say, Canadians, they have that rep of being like super cheery and happy, but a bit like maybe passive aggressive and a bit like not direct. I think that's kind of true. And then Americans, have the rep of being a bit more straight to the point and a bit more direct, and I think that's kind of true too. But overall, everyone's just most people I meet are good people, and there's not that much of a difference because I think, especially these days with social media as well as traditional media, we all grow up in a diet of like the Western culture becomes a little bit homogenized, that like we all just watch Marvel movies,
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, with you being in the entertainment industry, you have to travel quite a bit, and along your path into getting into acting and directing, you moved around a lot. Where do you feel most at home?
It's everywhere, to be honest. I like if I'm in LA and I'm going back to Canada, I'll be like, oh, I'm stuck at home. But then when I'm coming back to LA, I'll be like, I'm going home. And then if I'm going to Australia, I'm like, I'm just going home for Christmas. They're all at home. I kind of, because I moved around a lot. Well, not a lot, but like I had to move towns to go to university, and then I had to move towns for my lawyer job. So I've moved a few times, and I always just feel like, I mean, this is cheesy as hell, but I feel home where I'm around people who feel like home. And I've been lucky enough that everywhere I've been, I've found the person or people who make it feel like home.
Yeah, I think that's true too. Like myself, even being from Hawaii and kind of moving around and traveling, it's like home is where I am, home is where my people are.
Yes.
Like even though my people are kind of scattered around, it's kind of like I can have homes in different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like they said, home is where your heart is. So.
Yeah.
I know it's so cheesy, but it's kind of true, right?
Yes. Some of us are blessed to have big hearts, so we have lots of homes.
Yes.
Now, with that being said, and talking about the people who are important to us, and the ones that help us feel at home, who are the people around you that kind of form your support system to keep you grounded yet like motivated as you continue to grow and evolve and traverse the journey that you're on?
I mean, I'm pretty fortunate. There's like a lot of people I think are like that, and so anyone I don't mention, please don't hate me.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously my partner, she's great, and is very supportive, and is always been there.
Sorry, ladies in the audience.
Yeah. And then JB Tadina is a good friend of mine who's an actor. I don't know if you guys know him, but and my brother, and then one of my friends back home, John from Australia. And I think it's funny, like weirdly, I think the most important thing about those people and what I actually like the most is it's that they're honest. Maybe more than supportive, you know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes you can surround yourself with these yes men, and it's super destructive.
Right.
Like those people kind of keep it real, which is really.
And I think that's where a lot of people misunderstand, because so many people want a support team, but they want that person to, root them no matter what their decision is. And it's a true friend, a true loved one, someone who really cares and believe in you are going to root you on with things they think is great successes and things like that. But if they see you're going wrong, they're going to call you out on it.
Right.
And especially if you're doing something really stupid, they're really going to call you out and probably embarrass you if you don't listen.
Right? But it's the best. It's like, I think it's the best. It's the best.
Yeah, that's how you know, like, who's really down for you. Because, like, ooh, that's your people.
Exactly. And, that's always something I've heard from people that's like, well, I've heard people that said, well, I, ended friendships with people because they just didn't have they just didn't support me. And it's like, okay, did they not support you, or they just didn't support all of your decisions and everything? And then you find out most people want what I call as an echo chamber, someone who's going to say exactly what you want to hear and don't say anything opposite. And even though some people know they're wrong, but they just want somebody to say, okay, yes, you did. Awesome. And it's like, no, that person is not helping you. All they're doing is enabling you in your behaviors, and you're just trying to find justification in that echo chamber. And that's what we don't need to grow.
Right. It's tough. Like, it is, like, sometimes I see things like, and obviously we have to be positive, and like you should cut toxic people out of your life. But sometimes you see like the extreme of it, where it's just like, if a person's not like 100% in your corner all the time, it's like they just got to go, and it's like, I don't know if that's healthy.
Realistic.
Yeah, exactly. and it's really sad because when you hear people saying that, especially they're like, oh well, you're not really my friend, or I don't consider you as a friend or I don't consider you in my corner if you don't support me. And it's like there's a difference between supporting and you're truly supporting that person, but then like you said, it's that balance. You have to allow that person to call you out, because sometimes we're so blinded by our our focus or being so much in the moment and all. Sometimes we may be in a relationship, we got them, those rose colored shot glasses on. You are so drunk in that relationship that everybody else is like, but it's like you want to hear that, because at the same time you want people to keep you from making those mistakes or going too far down that path that you look back and you always hear people saying, I had such regrets because I didn't listen. I ended these relationships because they didn't echo what I wanted to hear, but that's not what helped me to become a better person. I needed to hear, that honesty from them. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't ready for honesty in any form that you get it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Exactly.
It's true. Yeah. I definitely appreciate it. Sometimes it's still like, oh, you're right though. Like, oh.
I don't want to hear it, but yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Especially when it deals with siblings. It's like, oh, I don't want to tell you were right. Which I have to ask, because I know you have 2 siblings. How is that rapport with your siblings? Do you have that sibling rivalry with your siblings, or was it more like when you were kids and then as y'all became adults, you bonded more as adults, or did you have, a different rapport as far as growing up with your siblings?
It's funny because I want to say we were always pretty tight, but then I'm like, is that true, or is that like my version of like? Because my brother is like, no, he bullied me his whole childhood, but like, it's always that thing of like, is my perspective on the past the actual right perspective? But
Right.
I like to think we were always pretty close. I think we've become closer as adults, but we've always got along, and especially my brother and I, we share like pretty much all the same interests and perspectives on things. And I always tell people like, he's like me but nicer. He's like the nicer version of me. So he's the guy you should talk to.
So that always put it in perspective. They said it depends on what area of, if you're the oldest, middle, or youngest, depends on how you're reflecting the experience. So are you, which of the 3? Are you oldest, middle, or youngest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay.
Yeah. The best one.
Okay. Yes. We're all oldest children here. All
You understand, then you understand.
Yes. Oldest children, team hashtag.
We're the guinea pig children. Just
Exactly.
That's right. The second, third parent, I don't know.
Yeah, they always say that you're the 3rd parent because you're the one that have to keep your siblings in check when your parents aren't around.
And setting the example, right?
Exactly.
Like, I felt like, sometimes my parents came down on me hard. I'm like,
Yes.
and then you see your kid, your younger sibling do the exact same things that you did. Your parents are like, what is up with that? Between me and them, like, are we all of a sudden this is no longer something that you get in trouble for? I'm like,
you always want to be to all your young siblings like, you owe me, because everything you have, I suffered for. Like,
Exactly. Thank you.
I took the brunt.
Yeah, you look at them like, you forever in my debt.
That's right.
All of it. So you had a better experience. I was the test child. All the techniques and parenting was all, the oldest child is always the test child. It's like, all right, this didn't work with Lee. Let me not do this with the next one.
Although I think it only works out if the oldest child turns out okay. Because, it's like if you're like,
that is true.
bad things, they're like, oh, well, it must be okay. But I feel like if you turn out bad, then it's even worse for the youngest.
Yes.
That's a good point.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But it's even more perspective when you see your parents when they get grandchildren. You're looking at them like
nothing. Like, just give them whatever they
didn't
want.
you specifically no, we don't touch that. And you're letting them touch that?
One of my family friends who's a grandparent, their grandkid dropped the iPad in the pool, and they were just like, it happens. It's like, what? No way would you have been like that with your kids. You would have been like thanking them and screaming and like, yeah.
You're being grounded for 2 months.
Right.
You are gonna earn. We're gonna take your allowance, and you're not gonna get anything. So we take off this iPad.
Yeah. You're going to be mowing lawns for the whole entire neighborhood. You're going to be babysitting.
Right.
That back.
Oh man.
I always tell like grandkids to do a whole 180 on the parents. It's like, who were you growing up? So it's always the like they said, the good, bad, and ugly in all relationships.
So true.
Yeah. So like being an older child, sometimes we have to kind of be like a trailblazer and be like an example for our younger siblings and people who come behind us.
Yes.
What are some things that you've done to create a path for BIPOC people to break through the bamboo ceiling in the entertainment world?
Oh shit, me?
Because in your own way, you have.
I mean, it's funny you say that because I actually don't think like that. I always think about how much everyone else has done for me. Like everything I've accomplished is because people, the last generation did so much, right? Like I have opportunities that people like Joel De La Fuente and Jimmy Saito and Kerry Tagawa would never have had. And like my generation, my demographic, like we always bitch about how hard it is, but we've got it so easy compared to those guys. I mean, the resilience like George Takei and those guys had to eke out a livable career in this business. Like, I mean, yeah. So it's kind of like I'm flattered you would ask that or say that, but I feel like I haven't done shit. I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants,
You are, but you're also being those shoulders for the future. Because as you mentioned, like when you started this path in Australia, you didn't see any Asian actors from Australia. And then now you're one of those representations that where this younger generation is seeing, hey, he's from Australia. He looks just like me. So you're starting, whether you know it or not, you're becoming that giant for that kid that is watching you on TV or that teenager that saw you in one of your, movies and said, okay, I'm seeing someone like me. So you are becoming that giant for someone else. You may not see it, but other people are seeing it. And we definitely see it.
You're too kind.
Yes. Like they say, you got to shower people with their flowers while they're here and not shower them when they're gone.
Absolutely.
So we're giving you your flowers.
Wow. Thank you.
Now, of course, you speaking about your passion of being a director, you have directed several films, as I mentioned in your intro, over the past couple years. How has the process in being a director, and how was the transition from going from acting to directing for you?
I mean, they're totally different skill sets, but I think I benefited in a way of because originally, most of my love for the industry, I was that kid who had all the DVDs and would watch every commentary track and watch all the behind the scenes and all the makings of. I've always loved the nuts and bolts. And then my liberal arts, where I majored in film studies, you're always trying trying to write long essays about like the motifs in the film and why these shots were selected, and like more of like a critic. So I think I could draw out of that history when I moved into directing, which like it was still a steep learning curve because it's so different. But I think it's a general blanket statement, but I think a lot of actors who turn directors get a little bit more focused on the performance, and it's like kind of their wheelhouse. They're like actors, directors, whereas I think I'm still like more interested in the big picture stuff as a director. So like the shot selection and the color correction, and the editing and the score, and all that stuff. And I like it. I like it a lot. It's different, but I like it.
Now, of course, you mentioned some of your favorite directors. Okay, you have to give, because everybody has. What are your top 5 movies that are those that you can sit down and it pulls you in and inspire you, but at the same time, it's just a good story that you just enjoy? Or it could be just a bunch of blasts and explosions and everything, and then it's just something that just unwind.
Man, like these top 5 questions are so impossible. I mean, I go back to The Thing a lot. The Thing was a good movie. Like, I still think that's one of the best horror movies of all time. And I think, obviously, the special effects don't look amazing now, but I think they've held up better than a lot of early CGI. Like, I think The Thing holds up as a really good film on so many levels. Seven was a hugely influential film to me. Yeah, right. And not just, obviously it's well acted and well shot and it's got that really good twist ending, but I also think it was like the first crime film to kind of present it as like this gray wrestle with morality as well.
Yeah.
Like, like before it wasn't really like that. So that was what else? Man, 5. I don't.
Right? He's like, put me on the spot.
Yeah. I don't know.
Even guilty pleasures. If you have that guilty pleasure movie that is just like, it is, I'm not there for the plot. It is just straight action, everything else. Even guilty pleasure. That could be part of your top 5. It doesn't have to be something that is thought-provoking.
My brother and I watch, and my sister, we watch Big Trouble in Little China every year.
Yes!
I love that movie.
I love that movie so much. You know what was funny? I showed that to a friend, and their instinct was, another like white savior movie where this dumb white guy like saves the day, and I'm like, but actually that's not really what's happening. Like, Jack Burton's a buffoon. Like, they're kind of making fun of him. Like, but it's so well done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a cult classic. That's for
yes,
sure.
it definitely is.
Right? So funny.
Okay. Any other classics that like is a fond memory we'll give as your next 2 that connects you with your family, whether it's your parents or something you enjoy watching with them or anything like that?
My dad's a huge Western fan. So I have a lot of fond memories of watching Westerns with him as a kid. I love the Western genre. So, and all of them, like Magnificent Seven and, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and all those ones. So that would be up there for sure.
I like those too.
Does your mom have a particular genre, or is it she just watches whatever?
Yeah, she just watches whatever. She's not a big, like, TV person, like movie TV.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny because my dad absolutely hates sci-fi fantasy. Anything that's like not real, he like just thinks it's ridiculous and stupid. So then, of course, everything I've been in has like sci-fi fantasy supernatural elements, and he's I'm not watching this. This is stupid. I was like, yeah, that's ridiculous.
But then he's like watching it. That's my boy.
Maybe.
Maybe. He may not admit it, but he's probably doing it.
So for those who might not be familiar with The Man in the High Castle, tell us a little bit about that particular work, and what was your part in that project?
Yeah, so for people who know literally nothing, it was based on a book by Philip K. Dick, who also wrote like the book that inspired Blade Runner and Minority Report.
Okay.
So I was like, and I love all of his stuff, and Blade Runner as well, like the original movie. Holy shit! So I was very excited to like even just audition for that. And again, I got really lucky. Oh, sorry. So it's basically the story of an alternate reality where the Nazis won the war. So it's set in the 60s in America, and America has been divided in two, and the Nazis control the east coast of America, and the Japanese control the west coast of America.
Okay.
And there's this like tenuous peace between them, but it's all kind of coming undone. And I play a guy called Sergeant Yoshida, who is like the right-hand man of one of the main villains, who is like the head of the secret police in Japanese-controlled San Francisco. So I'm like this thug, basically.
Nice.
But I was super lucky because I went in and read for that, and it was supposed to be a one-episode thing, and then just come in, deliver some exposition, get out. And I would have been very happy just to be on that show. But luckily, they were like, "Oh, we kind of like you. Do you want to come back?" And they just kept bringing me back. And
yeah, that's cool. So you played a villain. Do you have a preference, in your acting career? Do you like playing villains more? Or do you like playing the good guy more?
Yeah.
I actually like playing the villains more.
I feel like it'd be fun.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like for me, half the fun of acting is doing things that I can't do in real life. So I think I prefer villains because I think you get to do things so extreme. Like, in the first episode of Man in the High Castle, we gassed a family. It's like I couldn't do that. And I wouldn't want to gas a family. That's like fucked up. So it's fun to be able to. Fun, is that the right word? That sounds so morbid. To do that stuff on screen.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Now, of course, like you were talking, especially earlier, about being in law, and you mentioned earlier that you were thinking about going to be a doctor and all that. What made you decide to go into law?
It's literally, I finished school, didn't know what to do. Like, I had no plans, and then everyone's like looking at your grades, and they're like, "Well, you have to be a doctor or a lawyer. You just have to. It'd be like a waste not to." So I'm like, fine. And then I was like, well, like honestly, med school just seemed too hard. Law school seemed so much easier, so I was like, fine, I'll just do it.
That's pretty crazy because both I seem like are super daunting. At least to me, I'm like, oh god, I don't know if I could go that long.
Yeah, it's long. But see, my reasoning was right in the law. You don't necessarily have to remember anything. It's a lot of reading and arguing, but you don't have to like remember stuff. I feel like med school is so much. Got to name every bone in the body and every.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience for that shit.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Your bones. Yeah, you got to know the, different names of the different parts of the organs. As Moana knows, I went to medical school and everything. So it's like, yes, the right aorta of the heart, the, tibula, knowing all that and having to, know all that information. It's like, yeah, you have to ingrain it into your DNA. Exactly.
Damn. I'm sorry you had to go through all that.
Well, you had to. I know for law. I know here you have to know, all the different laws, and like you said, you're reading all these books to see if whether you're defending or you are, or whatever. It's like you're finding anything to back up your argument, and you're spending all that time in books. So if you don't like to read law stuff, because I always heard like, my parents would tell like me and my siblings, it's like, hey, y'all like to argue. Guess Be a lawyer. Yeah, I need to be a lawyer because if you like to argue, you need to be a lawyer. It's like it's so much more than just argument.
Yep. Yep. And it's not fun reading. That is dry stuff as
Yes. Yes. And if you were looking to be entertained, that is not going to be any kind of form of entertainment for you at all.
Right? Yeah, I remember I was in a business school, so we had to do like a business law class, and I was like, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer at one point, but when I was like, nah, this is not what I don't think this is what I signed up for.
Dodge the bullet. Just
Yes.
Yes.
Right. I'll just hire someone who can do that for
Exactly.
me.
Like I said, there is a lane for everybody,
Yes.
and I tip my hat out to anybody who's a
Yes.
teacher and things like that, because I'm just like, yeah, I have patience, but I cannot do 30 kids plus that ain't mine.
Yep. Yeah. It's a lot, man. Teachers 100% underpaid.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
truly.
By far. Like one of the most underpaid
Yes.
professions for sure.
Definitely, because it's like you're basically helping to establish and teach all these people to become our future adults and stuff like that, and you have so much responsibility on your shoulder, yet you're paid so little. You have to have a true passion to do it in order to oversee that. Between that and anybody with administrative assistant do.
Yeah. Shout out to all our admin.
Yes, if you're executive assistant, administrative assistant, or secretary, our hats off to all of you,
Yes.
because you have to herd cats.
Yeah. So much responsibility, like juggling appointments and all this, and like no margin for error. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all about, like understanding the person that you support and, all their different. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if you have like, your people, your manager people who help you to keep everything straight. Like, it's just, I know even for me too, I'm just like, I just shout out to all my, my support people, because like, I'm only one person. None of this happens without my team around me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Every good person have a whole team behind them that help them become that good person. So
Yeah.
help them shine. So yes. So if y'all have an admin or anybody of the support team, definitely out in the audience, make sure you recognize them. I will let y'all know April, if you're in the US, the month of April, there's a week called Administrative Professionals Week. Make sure you put it on your calendar. Make sure you recognize your admin. A thank you is great, but giving them something even better, because as much as they put in for that, you can do something for them. Get up, give them a massage.
That would be great. Work the stress out that you give them.
Exactly.
Maybe you don't give a massage and like creepy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not you.
Not you.
Not you.
Yeah,
Not you.
because HR is going to be like,
What is going on? Yes. Provide them with a certificate from your favorite massage service.
exactly.
Not you.
Exactly. And just let them get, show your appreciation, in that way. And, anybody who has any kind of support staff, no matter what your field, you definitely got to recognize them. If you're in the medical field, recognize your nurses. Nurses do 80% of the work. You do not downplay the nurses, because they're pretty much taking care of you and doing all the stuff after the doctors are in there for about a few minutes, and then they gone.
That's facts. That's facts.
So yes, there's so many people behind the scenes that do not get the proper recognition for all their hard work. So, and that is including everybody in the entertainment industry,
Absolutely.
especially during the pandemic. You all can help keep everybody's sanity.
Yes.
And there's so often that, and I know here in the U.S. that for the longest there was an underappreciation of the arts and music here, and funding continued to be decreased to supporting those areas within schools. And then now, because it was constantly, I know I've heard it. It was like, I've heard parents tell kids, well, what you going to do with that? If you're going to become an actor, what you going to do with that? Or you're going to be an artist, what you going to do with that? But then the pandemic proved how much that was needed because we were stuck in our homes. And the only thing that was to entertain us was our TV and our significant others. And the pandemic made or break a lot of relationships because you either realize how much you love somebody or you wanted to kill them.
Yeah.
You know, there was people debating. It's like, I'm gonna have COVID. I'm gonna go get COVID. I gotta get out. So it is definitely something, and you and our people in the music industry really was that bridge for so many for the last year and a half, because I mean, we've seen it, Netflix, YouTube, all of them shoot, Disney Plus, and especially and HBO Max boomed because of the pandemic, because everybody was getting a subscription to have something new to watch to keep themselves entertained while they're at home. And if it wasn't for people like you in that industry, we wouldn't have that stuff on TV. So hats off to you and everybody in your industry for keeping us sane for the last year and a half.
Absolutely. So you've been in the entertainment industry for a bit. What has been your most favorite moment being a director, and then your most favorite moment as an actor?
Yes.
Director, I think, is just, a lot of my directing and writing was born out of the fact of like a lot of friends who are really good actors who are Asian or black or whatever, and they don't get to do certain types of roles because, the industry still sees them in such a narrow way. So the best moments I've had is kind of writing roles for them that are different than what they usually get offered in kind of like the Hollywood sense. And that's always nice to see them tackle that and knock it out of the park. And it's funny, one of my friends, she was in my 1 minute short, and she hadn't got a lot of like commercial success back then, but I'm like, no, she probably should. Now she's like a huge recurring on Riverdale, and that's always nice, to see your friends succeed. So that's kind of been the highlight of my directing career. It's just working with my friends. And then acting, again, I've been really lucky. There's been so many, to be honest. The Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the first Asian person I had ever seen on television.
Yes.
And then on The Terror, Jimmy Saito, who played the Shredder, played my dad. And then, on that same show, I was working with George Takei, who was like Sulu, and, and Joel Del Fuente, and, Carrie on High Castle, who was Shang Tsung, who was like another iconic.
Yeah.
So for me to now get to see and know these people who kind of inspired me and who were staples of my childhood has been, you can't really put a price, I can't really express how much that means. It's like, yeah. And then I got to say the other one, special shout out, was I got to work with Mahershala Ali last year. And when you meet him, and he is, no exaggeration, the nicest, humblest, realest, most generous person. That's amazing, because so many people at that level aren't, And so it gives you so much hope that, like, you can stay true to yourself and be a good person and still make it in this business. You don't have to be a ruthless piece of shit. So.
Right. Man, Cottonmouth. He's such a talented actor too.
Phenomenal.
So many roles. So like, whenever he just comes on the screen, I'm like.
I mean, he's got the thing. Like, he's got whatever that is. He has it in spades.
Yeah, and for him to be so humble and down to earth, like, it's even more amazing to me. I love people like that who are like super talented, but they never, get let their fame or, those kinds of things kind of get too far into their head, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm still a person, this is just me reveling in my craft and, bringing the A game, but still like, it's cool,
Yeah. And that shows that passion too. When you have that passion for the craft, it's all about just bringing your best. And, you have everything from method actors to so much. I mean, I still get amazed when, they talk about like actors like, so many that get so enveloped in their role that they stay in that role until the film is done, and then they have to spend time back to their normal selves. And I was just like, that is some dedication.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's his name? Like Joaquin
Phoenix,
Yeah.
Yeah, because even oh gosh, I can't think of it, from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh yeah, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, he's another one. Because they said when he plays Jack Sparrow, he's like that the whole entire time. Like, I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube. Like, one of the times when he was doing it, and they were near, not too far from a Disney location, he decided to sneak on site, and he went into the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And as boats were coming out, he was popping out, and he's just like saying different stuff. And everybody's just like, oh, "Is that a amateur?" Oh, that's him. And he even got on the boat with somebody, and then when he got on the boat, the staff was waiting as he was coming down to get him.
That must have been so wild. Because you're right. You're like, this impersonator is really. Oh no! Oh shit! That's Johnny Depp.
Yeah. You're like, Disney is taking their stuff up to another level. He actually looks like him. Yeah, exactly. But I have to feel bad for his handler. It's like, anyone seen Johnny? Anybody seen Johnny? Oh crap. Somebody, now we gotta go find him.
Exactly.
They're running around. I wonder how long it took them before they got noticed that, hey, he's in. Probably they saw a social media post. It's like, Depp is here at Disney. It's like, everybody head to Disney now and go get him.
Like, we gotta shoot this movie. We gotta finish Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly.
That's right. Oh man. So in all of the the movies that you acted in or directed in, who has been like your most influential, whether it's like a co-actor or someone who's on the crew? Has there been someone that's kind of like helped to mold and shape the way you approach your acting?
I mean, not necessarily like my acting, but in terms of like a process, because I always think that's, like, I like to pull from different things depending on. I'm like, personally, there's no one acting school. It's like different roles, different characters are quite different. But I would still say, in terms of like my professional development, definitely Joel De La Fuente, who played Inspector Keto on High Castle, because that was my first like substantive thing, and all my scenes pretty much with Joel, and he was incredibly patient and generous and taught me a lot of things. And again, he doesn't have to do that. He could have just been like, why am I being saddled with this green actor who doesn't know shit? This guy, he's dragging me down. But he was quite the opposite. And I would say he's like the older brother I never had, and I still keep in contact with him, and I talk to him a lot and go to him for advice all the time. And he's just another like wonderful human being who showed me like how you can do it, like how you can conduct yourself as well as how you can act.
Right.
Which is almost more important. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just a good people. I don't know.
Yeah. So, like, when you're prepping for a role, or you're about to start a project, do you have any rituals that, like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of like where you center yourself on like, okay, I'm about to take on this project? Or are there like things that you do beforehand that's like, okay, I'm ready now, before you go on to a new project?
No, nothing in particular. Like
Okay.
I don't have any like I don't have lucky socks or like special tea or anything. But I mean, I do just kind of like think a lot about the character in the script, and also just like what a wonderful opportunity is. The only thing I do like to do generally is it's always good to have a chat with the director if it's a movie, as much as you can. And then if it's TV, I usually like to ask for the reading list that the writers have, because most writers' rooms have a reading list. I usually like to get their reading list and then read all the books that they're reading, so I understand kind of like where they're coming from. That's one thing.
Okay. That's cool. Makes sense.
Now, of course, with you working on there, okay, you talked about like the different, enjoying the experience. Now, okay, who have been your favorite actor or actress to work with so far?
I mean, it's going to be a boring answer because it's probably Joel again, but because again, he's a very good actor. Phenomenally good actor, and he was fun to be around. He made set fun. But then, Mahershala again, because just watching him work was like a masterclass in acting. So that was pretty big. I've honestly been so lucky because I've always been paired up with really talented, good, kind actors. Like even when I did one episode of Arrow, I was lucky enough to be opposite Michael Emerson, and I'd watched him on Lost, and it was like, oh wow, I can't believe I get to do that. So, when I was on Supernatural, I was with Mark Shepard, who I'd remember from the X-Files as like the quirky Firestarter guy. So every time I've had a job, I've worked with an older actor who I'm kind of familiar with, and it turned out that they lived up to how I imagined. Like none of them were assholes, and they were all nuts. That's a very boring answer, but that's like
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
And it's a great to kind of hear that you've had that experience, because some people have dealt with the assholes or the people that think they're greater than thou.
Yes.
And things like that. And it's great to hear that experience, that you have that positive experience. And then also, whether someone's watching this on the live or the replay, maybe that inspiration of someone trying to get into acting, and it's like you give them that extra boost to give that encouragement to keep going down that path and be that next, Asian, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, or that shines on screen and give that additional representation that has been lacking for so long.
Hope so. Whoever's out there, I hope it's you. Like you can be the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, like we go to a lot of different conventions, and I see a lot of fans like hitting fangirling and fanboying out. But like when I look at these actors and stuff, like oh, this is exciting, but at the same time, I'm like, well, these are just people, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm about to meet so I'm about to lose my shit, and I'm just like, but they're just a person. Like, if you want to talk to them, like, don't freak them out. Number one, like, if you go to them, like, oh my god, like, chill, because I'm sure they get all the time, right? Like, just talk to them like a person, like, hey, what's going on? Like, how are you enjoying the con? Like, what's your favorite thing here? Like, I like seeing the different people that show up, like especially at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Some people who throw on cosplay, as actors and celebrities, as a way to kind of disguise themselves, but still be like they're fans too, right? I've heard a lot of them say like, I'm a fan too, so I'm having a blast. Right?
Yes.
And so I think it's really cool for like us, everyone to remember that like at the end of the day, these are all people. They do things. They're in the spotlight, so we kind of raise them up as gods in a way, right? Like, oh gosh, you know, it's so cool. But, you know, at the end of the day, they're people just like me and you,
Exactly.
Dana, you know, so
Exactly.
we're really excited, you know, that you were able to come and share a little bit about your story. And your journey, and we wish you all the success,
Yes.
both as a director and as an actor, and in anything you do in the future. And if there's somehow that we can help,
Yes.
you know, to bring more attention to your projects or the things that you're working on, please always feel free to reach out to us.
Yes,
And
especially if you have a new project that's coming out and getting ready to release, let us know. We'll have you on so we can introduce the audience and, you know, give them even if it's like showing them, you know, a reel or something to give them the, you know, get them excited for it and get ready to tune in and stuff. So yeah, just let us know. We'll be happy to have you. And of course, when you're on the East Coast, let us know. You know, we got you. We'll get more of our guests that you've been on panels and stuff with, and have us all together and having a big old Moana Nui Ohana reunion.
No, that would be so wonderful. You guys are so nice. Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I hope, we will. We will catch up.
There you go.
Yes.
We will. We will definitely. And of course, at the end of the episode, because we didn't do on the last one, Moana, we need to do our drawing.
Oh, well, we did. I didn't even.
Yeah, we can. You can do it for the previous. Bring in for the people from the previous episode also. So let's do that. So hang on. We're going to.
There was so much going on.
Yes.
Like tonight, I was like, I don't even know if we're doing a drawing.
Yeah.
Because, let's see. Oh, I don't think we can select it because it's already passed.
Oh, it wouldn't do the other one? Oh,
Yeah.
shoot. Okay.
Okay, well, then we'll just go through it tonight.
Okay.
It's all good.
That's all right. But all right, everybody. So definitely make sure you tune in next week and everything. That we'll be back to our normal regimen, and we will be doing our drawing. So make sure you comment and definitely follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. So you can keep up to date on all our upcoming guests. Next week, we are so very excited. You will need to tune in.
Oh, yeah.
Because at 7:00 p.m., we will have two dynamic duos that will be on our show. We will have the Opie Princess and the Yarn Goddess. If anybody is familiar with Yarn Goddess, she is literally the goddess of crochet. She makes everything out of crochet. She crochets swimming suits. She does cosplay in crochet. She makes wigs. She makes, lingerie, everything. So she has a huge fan base and people that commission her and stuff. So she'll be on there. And we also have the Opie Princess, who is a gamer and also a content creator. So the two of them want to be on talking about their experience of being a woman in fields that tend to be male dominated, but also being a someone of the BIPOC community in a predominantly white community and dealing with the battles and how to be seen as a creator for your talent. So we're going to have them at 7:00, and then we have a very special guest at 8:30 p.m. If you ever watch the Power Rangers and everything, we will have Karen Ashley, the Yellow Power Ranger. She will be joining us on the show. So definitely tune in to hear from Karen Ashley, to learn more about her experience with being Power Rangers, being an actress and a director herself, and also talking about the upcoming con that she's going to be part of, Ranger Stop and Pop Atlanta. So definitely tune in next week. We'll be very so excited to talk with our guests next week. So Lee, once again, we thank you for joining us, being a part of this. So great to see you. We can't wait to see you in person. We know what's going to happen soon. And we thank you so much for your time being part. And okay, our guests and everything, everybody come and say hello to, everybody's going to say bye.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
What's going on, Lee?
Yo, how you doing?
And this is Denise right here. She is the owner of Social Burger right here.
Hey, Denise.
Denise.
We're gonna send you biscuits.
Oh,
What's the business called?
Biscuit baby.
The biscuits are called Biscuit Babies.
I definitely have to come check out your place when I'm over that side of town.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Right. I'm sorry. We're gonna send you biscuits.
I mean, that's
So let us know where she's literally she's gonna mail you some biscuits. So let us know where we can send it. So message us and we'll give it to her so she send you some biscuits.
that's so nice. You don't have to, but that's so nice. I mean,
Yes, and you're gonna enjoy these biscuits. The biscuits are really good.
Yeah.
The biscuits are really good.
Yeah, everybody's gonna tell you. You know, they've been blessed. They've been blessed. Literally, when we were eating them, there was this glow. It was like the sun was glowing everything we were eating today. It was just like, wow, blessed. It was, yeah. So she's going to send you some of them biscuits, and just be prepared for the,
Denise Lee.
Denise Lee's delicious biscuits. They're flaky, they're soft, they're not dry, and you don't even have to put butter on them. It's that good.
damn.
Yes.
All right. Amazing.
So we'll message you. You let us know where she can send them to you, and she's going to send you a nice little care package.
Okay, that's amazing. That's so generous. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
All right, Lee. Well, thank you so much. We don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Exactly.
We hope you have a safe trip in LA and wherever the roads may take you. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.
And the one and Nui, your Ohana right here. We got you.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll
You
talk
too.
soon.
Take care.
Nice to
Bye.
meet you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone in the back. See you.